The text came in while I was reheating her soup. Leftover tomato bisque. Her favorite. She had a headache the night before, didn't eat dinner, so I thought, like an idiot, I'd warm it up before she got home from yoga. Phone buzzed on the counter. I wiped my hands, still smelled like garlic. Opened it. Wedding is off. Expect a call from my lawyer. No joke. No typo. Just like that. 7 words. Each one colder than the last. I remember standing there, bowl still in the microwave, watching the seconds tick down like it was counting me out instead. The spoon I'd set on the table started to shake. Not from anything dramatic. I was shaking. Not in rage. In this weird, numbed-out kind of fear. Like when you miss a step on the stairs but never hit the ground. I didn't text back right away. I stared at the wall. The same wall where we'd argued about curtain rods last weekend. She wanted gold. I wanted matte black. She said I had zero taste. I let her win. My reply was simple. Robotic. As you wish. And that was it. No begging. No why. Not even a Jess. Are you serious? I didn't even turn off the microwave. I just grabbed my laptop, opened the mortgage portal, and removed my name. Took 3 clicks and 1 short email. I expected silence. Instead, within 48 hours, her lawyer was calling me like a debt collector. 3 voicemails in one morning. The last one ended with, "Please return my call. It's urgent." Urgent? You end a wedding like canceling a dentist appointment, and now I'm the emergency? But here's the thing. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Because I still didn't know what she'd done. What she'd hidden. What she thought I'd never find buried in a folder labeled conference receipts. But I did. And it changed everything. Her iPad was still on the kitchen island. Face down. No passcode. She never used one. She said it was too annoying. And besides, she had nothing to hide. At least, that's what she told me every time I asked why she'd suddenly turned off location sharing. I picked it up while the 3rd voicemail was still playing from her lawyer on speakerphone. Something about mortgage misrepresentation and potential breach of agreement. I didn't care. My ears were buzzing too loud to process legal jargon. I sat down with the iPad and just started tapping. Not out of suspicion, just impulse. My fingers went to her email app first, but she'd already logged out. Instagram too. Photos. Mostly harmless selfies and brunch shots. But then I found it. A folder in her Files app called Q2, 2025 CNF receipts. I clicked it thinking maybe I'd find something petty, like a luxury purchase she lied about. Instead, I found PDF after PDF, hotel invoices, Uber receipts, flight confirmations. All under her name. All paid for by someone named Bradley Kinlawn. Bradley wasn't her coworker. He wasn't her boss. He wasn't even from her office. I Googled him in a separate tab. He ran a real estate investment firm in Miami. Mid-40s. Married, 2 kids. Jessica had mentioned him once, casually. Said he spoke at a networking event she went to. Total sleaze, she said. Wouldn't stop staring. But here he was, paying for her flights, her hotel rooms, even meals at oceanfront restaurants. In one receipt from 3 weeks ago, I saw a room service charge for 2 champagne brunches. That same weekend, she told me she was at a silent wellness retreat and couldn't use her phone. I remember staring at that invoice and laughing. Actually laughing. It sounded like choking. My mouth went dry and my chest tightened up, but yeah, I laughed. Because of course the wellness retreat was a beachfront suite with Bradley. But the worst part wasn't the receipts. It was the video. In the same folder, at the bottom, there was a single MOV file labeled Room 360. I tapped it. Probably security footage, I thought. Maybe a hotel tour video. No, it was her. In that same hotel suite. Spinning around in a white dress, holding a wine glass, giggling as Bradley filmed her. She winked at the camera, lifted the glass like a toast, and said, "To early retirement." That's when I knew. She never planned to marry me. I was the co-signer. The financial fallback. The quiet, loyal plan B while she played house with a man who bought her champagne and fake promises. And suddenly, her cold little text made perfect sense. She didn't expect me to walk away. She expected me to stay in the background, to sign the mortgage, to disappear into a pile of paperwork while she flew back and forth to Florida pretending to be someone else. But now I had the iPad, the footage, the receipts, and a very polite, very persistent lawyer who was about to receive a very different kind of email from me. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed, staring at the cracked paint in the ceiling corner, wondering how many people knew and for how long I'd been the punchline in someone else's secret life. Every hour I'd get up, pace the living room, then sit back down and rewatch that video. The one where she spun in a hotel suite like a damn bridal model, toasting early retirement, like it was a joke only she and her sugar-coated sleazeball understood. Bradley. God, even his name made my skin crawl. I wanted to scream, break something, text her 100 times. But I didn't. I knew that's what she expected from me. Emotional chaos, desperation, me trying to patch something up that she had already torched and buried in ash. So instead, I wrote an email. Short, but deliberate. Dear Ms. Harper, in light of recent developments, I've reviewed the mortgage application I was previously associated with. Given the unexpected dissolution of our engagement and new information that raises ethical and potentially legal concerns, I've forwarded all relevant documentation to both the lender and my personal legal counsel. Please consider this my formal withdrawal from all joint agreements with Ms. Monroe. Regards, Alden Wallace. I attached 5 files, the Miami receipts, the flight confirmation under her name paid by Mr. Kinlawn, and yes, the video. Just a few stills, not the full recording. Enough to rattle, not enough to get sued. I hit send at 7:42 a.m. By 9:13, the phone rang. Not her lawyer, Jessica. I let it ring. 4 times. She left a voicemail. Hey, can we talk? I think there's been some confusion. I don't want things to get messy, okay? Messy? She drops me like a rotten apple with a 7-word text, and now I'm the one making things messy? I waited 2 more hours. Then her lawyer replied. Very different tone this time, suddenly respectful, understanding, willing to coordinate a mutual exit. She even asked if I'd be willing to sign a clean separation memo to prevent further reputational damage. For who? For Jessica? For the man playing sugar daddy behind a fake business trip? I didn't respond right away. I went for a walk instead, through our neighborhood, past the bakery where we used to get those stupid vegan scones she loved, past the bookstore where I bought her a journal she never opened. Everything felt like a museum of things I thought were real. When I got home, her key was gone from the hook, the one she always left there after yoga. I checked. Her clothes were still in the closet, but her phone charger was missing. So were her fancy face serums, and the expensive bathrobe she once claimed was just for winter. It was 84 degrees that day. She was gone, but not completely, because I knew she hadn't told Bradley, and I was about to make sure she never would, not before he heard it from me first. I had never spoken to Bradley Kinlawn, never met him, never even seen a photo of him outside of his company's website. That website, by the way, made him look like every cliché midlife investor. Blue blazer, forced smile, family values listed under his mission statement. The irony would have been funny if it hadn't been stapled to my life. I didn't know what I wanted from him. Revenge? Clarity? An apology for ruining something that, in hindsight, was already dead? I wasn't sure. But I knew one thing. I needed him to know. I needed her worlds to collapse. The double life. The secrets. The polished narrative she told both of us. So I drafted the message. Not emotional. Just informative. A simple screenshot of the hotel receipt showing her name and his last 4 digits of the Amex, paired with the video still of her in the hotel suite, glass raised, caught mid-wink. I believe you're familiar with Jessica Monroe. I thought you'd want to know how she's been spending your money. Regards, Alden. I didn't even expect a reply. Maybe he'd delete it. Maybe he'd deny everything. Maybe he was in on it the whole time. I hit send, shut the laptop, and went to lie down on the couch. For once, I didn't feel the need to check if she'd called again. She had, twice, but I muted her. Her panic didn't matter anymore. Her voice meant less than silence. 3 hours later, I got an email. Not from Bradley. From his wife. Apparently, the email I found on his firm's contact page wasn't his direct address. It was the one that forwarded to both him and his executive assistant, who just happened to be his wife, Leanne Kinlawn. She wrote, Mr. Wallace, I'm not sure what to say. I don't think this was meant for me, but I saw the attachments. I need to ask you something. Has this been going on for long? Please. I just need the truth. I sat there staring at it. My hands were shaking. This wasn't how I pictured it going. I hadn't meant to drag another person into this, especially not someone who was clearly as blindsided as I was. And yet, something about her message made me feel less alone. For the first time in days, I wasn't the only one screaming in an empty hallway. So I replied, carefully, honestly. I told her what I found. I told her about the folder, the receipts, the lies, the Miami trip Jessica disguised as a wellness retreat. I didn't dramatize anything. I didn't have to. The facts were already nuclear. Leanne thanked me, said she'd handle it from there. The next morning, Jessica showed up. She didn't call, didn't knock. She used her key, the spare one I didn't realize she still had. I heard the door unlock as I was brushing my teeth. My heart jumped into my throat. I walked into the hallway still holding my toothbrush. She stood there, hair tied back, face blank. No makeup, no ring, no apology in sight. You emailed Bradley's wife? She asked. I didn't answer. Are you insane? She hissed. Do you realize what you've done? I leaned against the wall and looked at her like she was a stranger who'd wandered into my house. Maybe she was. You started this, I said quietly. No, she snapped. You ruined it. That's when it clicked. She didn't feel guilty. She wasn't heartbroken. She was just mad I'd pulled the thread and exposed the patchwork life she'd sewn between us. And now she was watching it unravel, strand by strand. You should go, I said. She just stood there for a second, eyes flickering like she wanted to say something. Then she turned around and walked out without another word. No drama, no tears, just silence. This time, I locked the door behind her. And I changed the locks that night. But the story wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Because what came next didn't just unravel her plans. It unraveled mine, too. It was a Tuesday when the past finally knocked on my door, not metaphorically, but literally. Only it didn't start with a knock. It started with a call from an unknown number, just as I was scraping the burnt edges off a frozen pizza, trying to feel normal again. I almost didn't pick up. I'd been dodging calls all week, from mutual friends, from her sister, even from my own mother, who could sense something was wrong just from how quiet I'd become. But something about this number, it looked familiar in a way I couldn't place. I answered on the third ring, wiping my hands on a dish towel. Mr. Wallace? A man's voice said. Low, calm, careful. Yes. My name is Colin. I work with Kinlawn and Associates. I'm Bradley's. Well, I guess I was Bradley's personal counsel. I'm calling because things have escalated rather quickly, and I thought you might want to know what's happening on our end. I felt my chest tighten. I didn't say anything, just stood there by the oven, one hand still gripping the handle of the pizza tray. Colin continued. There's been fallout. Leanne, Bradley's wife, she's filed for divorce. But that's not why I'm calling. He paused. I'm calling because Jessica's filed a harassment complaint. Against you. I swear I stopped breathing for a moment. My stomach flipped inside out. What? I finally croaked. She claims you distributed private images of her to third parties without consent, that you accessed her devices unlawfully, and that your actions caused reputational damage to both her and Mr. Kinlawn. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Jessica, the one who lied, cheated, left me with a 7-word text, was now painting me as the criminal? I didn't hack anything, I said. She left her iPad unlocked. In our home. I didn't share the video. Only stills, and only with her partner's wife. She deserved to know. I believe you, Colin said surprisingly. Frankly, we all do. Even Leanne. But Jessica's building her case fast. She's angry. And she's dangerous when cornered. I sat down at the kitchen table, the heat from the oven forgotten, my heart pounding like I'd just been dragged into a fight I didn't train for. Why are you warning me? I asked. There was a pause. Because Jessica's not who you think she is. And neither is Bradley. This whole thing, the affair, the house, the mortgage, it wasn't about love. It was about leverage. You were part of a bigger game. What kind of game? I asked, my throat dry. But he didn't answer directly. I sent you something, he said. Check your inbox. When you're done reading, you'll understand why she needed you to stay quiet. And why you'll need a lawyer of your own. The call ended. I sat there for a long minute, staring at my reflection in the dark oven glass, then rushed to my laptop. The email was already there. No subject line. No greeting. Just one PDF file, named Transfer Agreement _Wallace. PDF. I opened it, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Jessica had listed me as a silent co-investor in a shell company 3 months ago. My name, my old signature, my information, all forged, all filed, and it had already been used to move a large sum of money. I was on paper as co-signer to a transaction I knew nothing about. She didn't just betray me romantically. She used me financially, legally, quietly. And now? Now it wasn't just heartbreak. It was a trap. I didn't leave the kitchen for almost an hour after reading that document. I just sat there, hunched over the laptop, reading it again and again, hoping maybe I'd misunderstood. That maybe some part of it wasn't real. But no. Every page, every field, every forged signature, every piece of proof was a carefully orchestrated trap, and I was the name holding it together. That was the real reason she'd kept me around. The reason she hadn't ended things sooner. I wasn't just a placeholder fiancé. I was cover. Paperwork camouflage. She needed someone with decent credit, a clean financial history, and enough blind trust to sign anything put in front of him. And like a fool, I fit the role perfectly. I wanted to scream, to break something, but instead I did what I always do when I feel helpless. I retreated into research. I opened every email account I could remember using in the past 5 years. I pulled up every shared drive, every backup, every digital corner where she might have accidentally left breadcrumbs. I was desperate for anything that might give me leverage, or at least clarity. And that's when I found it. A second email address linked to one of our shared Dropbox folders, an address I didn't recognize at first. It wasn't hers, at least not under her name. It was a generic string, JM, Alt, 456 at some obscure domain. I nearly missed it, but it was hers. The profile picture was one of her older selfies, cropped tight. And the folder? It contained more than receipts. It had contracts, scanned IDs, flight itineraries, voice memos, a script, an actual script, of what she'd planned to say if I ever confronted her about the Miami trip. I read it 3 times. Alden, I know how it looks. But it was a business trip. I stayed in the room alone. The brunch receipt? That was from a meeting. You're blowing it out of proportion. She had written it in first person, like she was rehearsing a role. She even had alternatives, depending on my mood. If he's angry, this isn't how adults handle things. You're being dramatic. If he cries, I need space. You're overwhelming me. If he's silent, I don't know what you want me to say. She'd gamified me. Like I was a simulation she could outmaneuver with the right script and a calm voice. Like my reactions were predictable, like my pain was part of the design. And then I found the transfer log. The shell company she used with Bradley had moved $240,000 through a dummy escrow account. The final deposit? Made 3 weeks ago, the same day she told me she loved me before bed and asked if I wanted to look at wedding bands again. That night I'd gone to sleep thinking about gold versus silver. She'd gone to sleep having already decided to burn everything down. I called a lawyer the next morning. A real one. Not a friend of a friend or some budget, free consultation ad. I paid up front. I brought everything, the emails, the PDFs, the recordings. And when I showed him the forged documents, he didn't flinch. He just nodded slowly and said, "We're not just talking fraud here. This borders on identity theft." That's when I started to feel something shift in me. It wasn't rage, exactly. It was something colder, heavier, like stepping out of a burning house and realizing the air is quiet. I'd been trying to prove to Jessica that she'd broken something real. But now I realized she hadn't broken me. She'd broken rules, laws, boundaries. And that meant I had options. This wasn't just emotional warfare anymore. It was legal, and I was done playing the quiet one. By the end of that week, my lawyer had already contacted both the mortgage lender and the state financial authority. The moment they saw my name on the forged investor documents, things moved fast. Not just because of the fraud, but because Jessica had used my digital identity to authorize a wire transfer across state lines. That made it federal. I didn't even understand half the legal terms being thrown around, but one word stuck: prosecutable. And still, somehow, she thought she could outmaneuver it. 3 days after the paperwork was submitted, I got a knock at the door. I was expecting another letter from my attorney, maybe some bank documentation, but instead, it was a reporter. Local, small-time digital outlet, but still, press. He was polite, mid-30s, looked exhausted. Said he was working on a story involving the Kinlawn firm. Something about whistleblower documents, shell companies, and internal misappropriation. And my name had come up, not as a suspect, but as a witness. Apparently, someone, Leanne, I suspected, had tipped off the press. And Jessica? She must have felt the walls closing in, because less than 24 hours later, she went nuclear. She made a public post. Not on Instagram, where she still kept up the clean influencer vibe, but on LinkedIn, of all places. A long, carefully worded essay about the emotional cost of betrayal and how she was manipulated into a financial partnership with someone she thought she could trust. She never used my name, but she didn't need to. The breadcrumbs were obvious. I recognized her style, poetic but vague, designed to frame herself as the wounded party without actually saying anything legally actionable. But it was the comments that turned everything. People weren't buying it. Someone linked to an early article speculating on financial fraud at Kinlaw and Associates. Someone else asked why her story directly contradicted a public mortgage filing. Another said, "Wait, didn't you just get back from Miami last month? Thought you said you were off-grid?" And then came the final blow, a screenshot of her video toast from my leak, now circulating in private forums. She tried to delete the post, but it was too late. Screenshots spread faster than fire. She called me that night. Blocked number. I answered out of instinct, thinking it might be my lawyer. But no, it was her. "You ruined me," she said, voice flat. "Do you feel good now? Is this what you wanted?" I didn't say anything right away. I walked to the window, stared out at the empty street. It was raining, not hard, just that slow, gray drizzle that makes everything feel like a memory. "You did that yourself?" I said finally. "I just stopped covering for you." She laughed. A bitter, cracking sound. "You think this makes you a hero?" "No," I said, almost whispering. "It makes me free." She hung up, and that was the last time I heard her voice. But not the last time I'd hear her name. Because the investigation was just beginning, and one of the accounts she used was still open, still active, still receiving money. And someone, not me, not Leanne, had started moving funds out of it anonymously. The web wasn't just unraveling. It was snapping. I used to wonder what closure felt like. Not the movie kind. No dramatic speeches in the rain. No final tears in a candlelit room. I mean the real kind. The kind where you don't need anything from the person who hurt you. Not an apology, not an explanation, not even eye contact. I finally got that answer. And it didn't look like revenge. It looked like silence. Jessica's name started showing up in more articles. At first just in passing, then in headlines. Key Kinlaw partner linked to fraudulent real estate transfers. Investor identity theft investigation expands. The story gained momentum after Bradley was suspended from his firm. Apparently, his wife froze joint assets the second she filed for divorce. Jessica, it turned out, was more deeply embedded in the money laundering than I ever imagined. I wasn't just a pawn. I was a shield. A legal firewall she used to sign things she couldn't attach her own name to. But that firewall had collapsed. The investigation snowballed. Lawyers got louder. The SEC came knocking. Her accounts were frozen. The new house? Foreclosed. That Miami condo? Under federal review. She went from champagne brunches to court appearances in under 3 months. And me? I got my name cleared. Officially. Publicly. My lawyer did good work. We filed all the evidence, and I testified once via video. After that, I was just done. Free. There was no big cinematic moment. No handcuffs in front of cameras. No desperate email begging for forgiveness. Just one final update from my lawyer. She's settling. Pleading out. "You won't have to testify again." And that was it. I left the city not long after. Sold everything that reminded me of her. Moved to a smaller place upstate. Quiet. Lots of trees. I started freelancing. Software testing for small businesses. No corporate drama. No long contracts. I grew a beard. Got a dog. Named him Benson. He doesn't care that I used to be a walking cautionary tale. Some nights I sit on the porch with a coffee and think about how close I came to marrying someone who saw me as paperwork, who scripted my emotions, who weaponized my loyalty. But I'm not bitter anymore. Because I survived. I rebuilt. And now, I'm living a life she'll never be part of. Not because I shut her out, but because she buried herself so deep in her lies, she forgot how to climb out. I posted this here because if someone out there is going through something that feels like the end, I promise you, it isn't. The fire you're standing in? It's burning away everything that wasn't real. And what's left? That's you. The real you. The version they couldn't control, or fake, or erase. And that version is worth everything.